Teacher Janelle here. Welcome to another episode of Dressmaking 101. This is the apron you are about to sew as you go on watching this video. If you weren't able to watch the video on how I made the pattern for this apron, just click the link below. This is a very simple design intended for beginners. I made sure this can be done even with hand stitching. Let's begin with the materials you need to prepare to work on this one. You have scissors, pins, the fabric marker, measuring tape, of course the fabric, and the pattern itself. Let's not forget the needles and thread for sewing. Now prepare your fabric. 1 meter will do for this project. Now you fold your fabric in half. Position the main pattern in a manner that the long side is on top of the folded side of the fabric. Pin the pattern to the fabric to hold it in place. There are only 3 patterns for this project: the main pattern, the pockets, and the straps pattern. Since I did not draft the pattern for pockets and straps, I will just have to plot them directly on the fabric. You see, drafting a pattern is very important as it will guide you to ensure that you don't waste fabric when you make a project. I introduced these measurements when we were drafting the pattern. Now focus your attention on the pocket pattern. I want to make a wider pattern, so we'll have to add 1 inch allowance on all 3 sides. Remember, one side must be atop the folded side of the fabric. I know I said that the longest area of the main pattern should be on top of the folded side of the fabric, but since this is the only fabric I have, so I have to adjust. Now that you have marked the allowances, it is time to cut the patterns. Let's take a look at the pocket pattern now. See, the 6x6 becomes 6x12 when you open that, since you positioned the pattern at the folded side of the fabric. That's it. You must have realized that the pocket pattern is not a square after all. It's like a combination of 2 squares, making it a rectangle. Now, if you failed to position the pocket at the folded side of the fabric, don't fret. You can just join them together by sewing the middle part to form a rectangle. Now, here are your straps. I said straps because since the fabric is folded into 2, when you cut one pattern, you get 2 parts. So you got 2 straps. Well, in my end, I have to cut mine at the folded side because mine is positioned the folded side. It may not be true to yours, however. Here are your 2 straps. Now it's time to cut the main pattern. Since my main pattern is not positioned at the folded side, so I will just have to sew the middle part. Alright, just to make sure if you have the exact or the complete patterns for this project, I'm gonna have to enumerate. Make sure you have 2 straps, 1 rectangle pocket, and of course, the main pattern. The main pattern should open into a house-like figure. See that? It's sewing time, guys. Well, I am basically using an ordinary sewing machine. Well, in your end, you may do hand stitching if you must. Let us begin with the straps. Now you fold the strips into halves. Pin them together and measure 1/2 of an inch at the edge. Then you connect the lines to form the allowance. Sew the folded strips together, following the line you made for the allowance. Do the same in the other strip. Now we're going to reverse the strips to ensure that the sewn part is kept hidden. So we're going to turn it inside out. So you could use something pointy. So in my end, I am using a screwdriver. Just hold it there. Gather the fabric, the strip, by pulling it towards you. Once all parts of your strip are gathered towards you, you're going to pull that one part that protrudes. And that is the time when you are pulling it, thus hiding the stitched part of your strips. And now you have a very clean strip ready for attaching. Do the same in the other strip and set aside. Now let's make a clean start for your pocket. We are going to sew the edge as pointed by the illustration in green. Let's begin by marking 1/2 of an inch from the edge. That is going to be your guide when sewing. Fold the 1 inch allowance and then fold the 1/2, which is you're going to hide the 1/2 to ensure that we have a very clean finish. Pin the folded ends to make sure you would not have a problem in sewing them together. So that's basically your guide. Extend the markings on your pocket, as when you plotted it on the fabric, only one side has the markings. So this is going to make your sewing a lot easier. It's time to sew the main pattern. Remember the house-like figure? Look at the illustration. So we are sewing the allowance. Now we're doing the allowance, the fold and hide. Remember that technique when you did the pocket pattern. So you fold and then you hide the other end to make sure that the fabric won't ravel. You can start by measuring 1/2 of an inch from the edge of the allowance. Then you draw that line to make sure you have a guide in folding, and then you can actually sew them together already to finish it. Once you get the lines done, you can fold and pin them together. Always be guided by the illustration, because that shows you which part of the pattern you are working on and which side you're supposed to be working on. The illustration is now pointing in the other direction because that means you're working on the other side. Now that the allowance for the diagonal side of your main pattern, we are ready to attach the straps. Now let us get to know the wrong side and the right side of the fabric. So this is your strip, that's the wrong side, or I call it the back side of your strip. The wrong side is where you see the stitches. The right side is the clean side of your fabric. In attaching the strip to your main pattern, the top part of your main pattern, make sure the right side faces the right side. That would be the right side of your strip and the right side of the main pattern. Align your strap to the diagonal or the slanting line in the pattern. Now we're going to clean the topmost part of your pattern as pointed by the illustration. Measure 1 inch from the topmost part of your pattern. Then once you have settled that, you do the fold and hide, then you can start sewing. But to put them in place, you could always put a pin so that you'll be guided when you sew the topmost part. Of course, sewing the topmost part would also mean that you have included the straps there. So you have to cut the excess fabric so that when you sew the topmost part, you would not have problems with the bulk. I call this the chest portion because when you are going to wear this apron, what you're sewing now is actually positioned in your chest area. This is the chest area I'm talking about. See how it reveals its form now. Now we're going to attach the other ends of your straps to the other end of the diagonal line, or the line going down to the hip area. Remember that our straps are supposed to do a crisscross at the back, so that means one strap, the strap on the left side must cross to the right side. Let the illustration guide you. Remember, the right side should always face the right side when attaching the strap to the main pattern. Always check the position of your strap. Make sure it's not twisted. Now that the straps have been successfully attached, it's time to finish the side seam as pointed by the illustration. Remember to fold and hide. You can still go on marking lines, like a 1 inch allowance that will still do, pin and then sew. do the other side. Now let's finish the hemline. The hemline would be the bottom part of your apron. Look at the illustration. You can still measure 1 inch, make a line there at the bottom, then you fold and hide. Pin, then you can start sewing. It is about time to attach the pocket. Let's start by measuring 12 inches from the top through the center. Take a look at the illustration for your guide. Find the center of the unsewn part of your pocket pattern. Remember, the right side face the right side. Pin the unfinished side of the pocket pattern to the 12 inches you have measured a while ago from the top of the main pattern. Now you pin it there and you can start sewing. But make sure to leave 1 inch before you sew. That would also that would also be the same in the other end. Leave 1 inch before you finish. Now bring the finished side of your pocket to the top. Don't forget the center. Now remember, you left open 1 inch for both sides of the pocket. That side, that's open there, so you did not sew that part. So what you're gonna do now is fold and hide. Okay, fold and hide, then you're gonna pin, then you sew it to close one side, and do the same in the other side. Now close the center part of your pocket, or you sew the center part of your pocket. This means that it would give you 2 pockets this time. We are almost done. We will just have to make a few adjustments for the hip area and the chest area. This is because we have made a diagonal line. So by adjusting it, we are actually making some room for curves. Now measure 2 inches from whence the arrow is pointing in the illustration. Fold it and put a pin. Once the pin is in place, you can start sewing it to close it. Do the same in the other side now. Lastly, let's do the chest area adjustments. Measure 3.5 inches from the topmost corner down as shown in the illustration. To achieve that straight line in the chest area, you're going to hide the rest of the fabric under the measurement that you have, and then you pin it. Once they are successfully hidden under and you already see a straight line in the chest area, you pin and then you sew it. Do the same in the opposite side. This is now the finished product. So the topmost part of your apron starts with a straight line and then it goes diagonal. Let's see. Let's put it on our mannequin. That's the crisscross you have made in your apron. And now here's your apron. Let's see it on our mannequin. See, I'm gonna slide it to. I'm gonna show you what happens to the topmost there. That's when you hid that portion, the last step you made, and the back. Here, when you made the adjustments side, you get a crisscross there. That is the hip portion that you made the adjustments. And there. And your pockets, you have two pockets. Now I'm gonna show you if it's worn with a toddler. See, so your apron is not very long actually. So if it's worn by a kid, it would look like a dress. If it's worn by an adult, it would be just like by the thigh area. So that's it, guys. I hope this video is much of a help to you in accomplishing your apron pattern. Ta-ta for now!